I never raised my voice. That wasn't weakness, it was practice. Years of being the quiet one in my family taught me how to listen, to catalog, to remember the small things other people dismiss. The day I stopped being invisible, I didn't shout. I moved in the dark. And by morning the house I'd lived in with their laughter was finally listening. They said it was a joke. He just grabbed some snacks, my nephew Milo told me with a shrug, his chocolate sticky fingers still on the counter. By dawn there was nothing funny about it. $8,200 missing from my account. When I asked my sister Lena about the charge, she rolled her eyes and swatted at me like I was overreacting. Kids will be kids, our mother Elaine added from the couch, as if $8,000 was pocket change and I was being dramatic for asking where our money went. I said nothing. I nodded and walked away because they didn't deserve the performative scene. They'd practiced that for years. Mock concern, then the same old dismissal. So I did what I'd learned to do best. I waited and I prepared. Lena and I had been close once. She was the loud one, the easy laugh, the favored child who learned how to bend people with charm. Me. I kept the receipts, remembered birthdays, fixed the broken things no one else wanted to touch. When she started taking small sums as a joke, a little here, a little there, I let it slide. It was easier than confronting a family built on quiet, selfish assumptions. But $8,200 in one night was not a slip. Toddler can't swipe that much. The pattern was obvious once you stop letting excuses blur the lines. Strange late-night charges, subscriptions I'd never signed up for, rides that never happened. She'd trained herself to hide behind Milo, to let his small hands be the comic alibi. That night I did what they never expected. I stayed up later than she did. I brewed coffee and I pulled every login, every automatic payment, every linked card and account where her name or our mother's showed up. I traced reimbursements, PayPal transfers, lazy passwords saved on shared devices. She'd left digital fingerprints everywhere. Sloppy, arrogant, trusting that someone would always bail her out. At 11:58 p.m., I set the sequence in motion. Quietly, deliberately, I froze every card connected to her name and to the accounts that funneled through Elaine's profile. No alerts, no dramatics. At 6:59 a.m., I double-checked the holds and hit Final Submit. At 7 o'clock, the bank pushed the locks live. 7:01 my phone was silent. At 7:03 a muted ping. At 7:06, a text from an unknown number, then another. At 7:07 my sister's name flashed on the screen, incoming call. I let it ring. I wanted the panic to swell, to look at her face before she saw mine. At 7:10 she came to my door like a storm. Hair wild, robe half on, phone in hand, the bank app open on her screen with a red banner screaming, "Access denied." Her voice was raw. "What did you do?" she demanded, panic shoved into accusation. She wasn't the composed sister of my childhood. The mask had slipped. I opened the door slowly and handed her a folder I had prepared in the night. Inside, spreadsheets with timestamps, screenshots of purchases, receipts from places she'd never imagined would be cataloged, the trail that led back to her accounts. Every late-night boutique charge, every emergency transfer, every suspicious vendor, documented and dated. I watched her read, watched color drain from her face. "You wouldn't," she tried to say, but fear had already rearranged the words into a different language. "I already did," I said. My voice was low because low carried farther than shouting in a room full of denials. "Your employer has a copy. The bank has flagged the accounts. You have until noon to explain this to HR and to your bank, or I'll hand everything over to the authorities," she begged. She called me cruel, selfish, melodramatic, all the labels they'd trained her to use against me when I asked for respect. But pleading doesn't erase records. By 9 a.m., I had forwarded a clean file to her human resources department. Transactions, login IPs, vendor receipts. Not accusations, facts. Something that would make the people who paid her sit up and ask questions. By 11:45, the truth did what truth always does when it's handed to the right people. It forced action. HR suspended her pending investigation. The bank placed temporary holds and opened a fraud probe. Her world of casual entitlement narrowed to a single problem: explain or face the consequences. At noon, Lena came back with a confession, not out of guilt but because she had no other choice. She signed emails, agreed to meet with investigators, apologized in a voice that sounded small and borrowed. My mother called me furious soon after, venom threaded with fear. "You ruined her life," Elaine hissed. "No," I said, and I let the words land with their weight. "She ruined her own. Don't call me a villain for returning what she took." Then I hung up. I didn't gloat. There was nothing to gloat about. I had not stolen the money back. I had taken something harder to return: control, dignity, the balance that had always been missing from the family ledger. They had reduced me to someone who could be laughed at, dismissed, drained. That morning I recalibrated the accounts and the power. That night I sat alone in my apartment with the city lights smeared against the window. The phone stayed quiet. No triumphant calls, no mocking texts. Just the absence of their laughter, which felt oddly like peace. People ask if revenge feels good. They imagine fire and spectacle. They don't imagine the slow, surgical sort of justice that unspools while everyone else sleeps, the kind that leaves you whole and the other side raw with consequences. At 7 a.m. she screamed. At 7:10 she begged. By noon she had to face the people who mattered beyond our family. And I closed the door on the sibling who thought she could steal from me and laugh about it. I didn't need to raise my voice. The quiet ones remember everything, and sometimes remembering is the sharpest thing we have.